Welcome to a new year. I'd like to start the year with a reflection, really, for you to reflect in your own life. And I'm going to give you some ideas and a framework around how to consciously be aware and how to consciously be ready for your next stage of growth. Because growth happens everywhere in business and in life. And the next stage of growth that you're truly trying to unlock really only happens, and this is the way I've seen it and experienced it in my life, when you master some new level in your interior life and in your emotional intelligence. Now, I'll give you some examples. Some of the greatest privileges I've had was to work and be the advisor of some incredible founders, to see behind the scenes of what they're actually doing and what their habits are, what they're executing on, what their doubts are. Like I've been in the boardrooms and you think that when you're successful, that the doubts, and they actually don't, they actually creep up the most at some certain levels. So what I want to share here is not peeling back the curtain too much, but I'm going to give you some anonymized examples of real clients and some of the changes that they're making that are either A, going to change fundamentally how they execute and see themselves, but two, some have actually made these changes and are seeing the fruits of those changes. And it all begins with an interior motive, an interior movement where the exterior success that they see happened from a decision. For example, one of my clients, well, this is not an example, but mostly one of the clients that I work with, I've had the great privilege is that his work, he serves to serve others who are, battling debilitating addictions. And the biggest thing I learned from him was results or success or progress is a day by day effort. So in no way what I'm saying is like a one and done thing. What I'm saying here is that the activities or the behaviors and the decisions you make are made daily. For example, one of my clients, they eliminated alcohol from their habits, like completely eliminated it. And not only did they see health benefits and tremendous momentum in their life, that was substantial, but they also like personally have seen life in abundance and their business has grown substantially, like realistically, measurably better. Another client has shifted their morning routine from shifting through, scrolling and reviewing social media to waking up earlier and starting the day on a positive note to show up at a stronger level with a stronger mindset and a stronger leader for those they lead around them. Like that small thing has made a substantial difference. And another client beginning their journey, waking up earlier, peeling back the wake up clock. I'm not saying when you work with me, you're going to have to peel back the wake up clock, but typically that happens. But they're waking up earlier to do some significant workouts with a men's group. And that's fundamentally changing not only personal view, but how they approach their work and their business. And I can continue with multiple examples, but the key thing I want to go through is the through line. What's the through line? The through line here is that these are multiple clients, like the examples I just gave you, from multiple states of life. They're not all living in the same state of life, the same circumstances, or even in the same city or the same state. So they're radically different. What they did do is they understood that there's a higher level that they could be operating of. They set their own standards of who they are. So they didn't just get it from someone else. They know who they are and they set their standards for who they are and they started executing. I think the third is the most important. These aren't tactics. These are just simple decisions, but radical decisions that begin through controlling your emotions and controlling your focus and your state of mind. And yes, of course, frustration is a channel of energy where you can make these changes. It is a breaking point that usually happens. Frustration happens, an issue happens. You're just not happy with where you're at. We get it. And those obstacles that you have, if you're not facing them, they're going to limit your progress, especially if you're looking at business growth. You have to either go through or around or knowing what obstacles you have to work with in order to make a change. However, the emotion that this creates when you make a change and the willpower to change, that subtle shift from frustration to desire, that gap between, hey, I'm frustrated, there's this obstacle that I have to work with, or this thing I have to navigate with, and your desire to change, that gap is where progress actually happens. Because that gap, you have a reflective realization, the interior dialogue of who are you? What's pulling you in multiple directions? What's pushing you around? Where are you diverting your energy and, frankly, your power? Because we all have power. We have the opportunity to make decisions. So before you ever ask all these major questions, You need to figure out and make a decision. You need to figure out, because in that gap, it's so subtle. Is this decision moving me closer to my goals, or who I ideally would like to be, or who you ideally think of who you are? And in this stillness, this contemplative spot, in the stillness of your mind, you're left alone to ponder, why do I desire this thing? What has formed me in the past or shaped me or influenced me to want this thing? Is this thing or this ideal or this thing that I'm aiming for really who I am? Is this in alignment with my values? And if I do this thing, will that build the character that I wish to have, that I wish to be? That liminal space between where you have frustration and you have desire and decision, that's where the most progress is made, but it can also be easily missed. So I'd like to encourage you and invite you in that liminal space. What are you planning? What are you doing? What are you masterminding? Is that you? And through this exercise, you'll begin to realize the interior motives of hopefully learn about who you really are. Like, who really are you? And through this, understand those around you. Because once you understand how you go through this process, you're going to start seeing this with your team, with your employees, with your family members. Every single human who has a human experience is going through something like this. Those you lead, you'll start to see, what are their interior motives? Why are they making this decision? You may not know all the answers, that's fine, but at least you start to understand and have empathy. So I'd like to close with a simple framework. This framework I've crafted from years of studying psychology, philosophy, human performance. And for those who don't know, I began in direct response advertising, so studying really how humans behave. But my love and desire really of like the human willpower, the human mind, and my own experiences in leadership and in advisory positions with my portfolio of clients. So the guide is simple. Think of it as a primer to warm up your engines, to begin to ponder in this liminal space, and to help you answer some of the most transcendental questions that have appeared across the minds of billions of humans across the centuries. And the framework I call is the inner dialogue. Your inner dialogue is driven by your worldview. So I'm going to give you the header, and I'm going to give you some questions to think about along the inner dialogue. Because when you answer the inner dialogue, this really gives you an understanding of where you are, who you are, and then you get to self-analyze and really say, like, oh, is this really who I am? And again, this work is superiorly important because this will dictate the decisions that you make, and this will empower you to make, hopefully, the highest, the better, the best decision that you can. So your inner dialogue, the way that you have a conversation with yourself, the way you view, is determined by your worldview. What do you believe is the meaning of life? What behaviors or actions do you take because of that view? So what's the meaning of life? What behaviors do you have because of that view? This is a stem of metaphysics. And then based on that, what is humanity in that view? Based on your meaning of life, how the actions you take, how do you treat others? That's the study of anthropology. And then how do you treat others because of that you? How do you define love? What are your ethics and values in life? Then you have your vision for your life. Do you want to make an impact? Are you seeking change to change the way things are? Or do you want things to remain the same? And again, there's no right or wrong answer here, it's just for you to self-reflect. Then there's the views about and the beliefs that you have about yourself. Are you still figuring out who you are, or are you firm in who you are? Are you seeking status and worth outside of yourself? Are you growing or seeking change? And those views and beliefs about others. Who makes you feel important? How do others play a role in your life? Because how you view yourself determines how you view others, and how others influence how you view yourself. Next, we dive into the beliefs of what you're doing. Are you firm in the path you're on? Or are you constantly doubting yourself or your journey? How do you see your work? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Is it vain? Is it impactful? Are you growing and seeking new experiences or education? And are you content with how things are? Now, for change, obviously you have to be somewhat discontent, but also understanding, are you truly content? Are you happy with the journey? Are you enjoying the journey? It's another question to reflect on. Then we reflect on the future. Do you have a sense that the future is going to be better than the past? That's an important question. Then you look backwards. Is the past where your best memories live? Where does the present play a role here? And then we look at simply your decision-making guide, when you buy things or you do things, are you an emotional buyer, or are you super rational and analytical buyer? Obviously, most things are done emotionally, but this is just good for self-reflection. And then for your decision-making ability, do you make decisions quickly, Or do you marinate on your choices? And again, there's in-betweens here. And then finally, there's levels of trust, and this is superiorly important. Do you trust openly? Or do you have others prove themselves for you to trust them? These are some reflection questions to look at. And again, regardless if it's a beginning of a year, a change in a milestone in your life, these are healthy things to look at and be able to identify between where you are, the frustration and the desire, that liminal space, that change, that pivotal point to reflect and review. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to get more of these podcasts, please go ahead and subscribe to wherever you're watching or listening to the pod. If you have any suggestions or questions that you want me to answer on the pod, or you have a guest that you want me to interview, please go ahead and email me all of your suggestions and questions at podcast@dogoodwork.io. That's podcast@dogoodwork.io. If you'd like to give me public feedback, you can go on Apple Podcasts, and from there you can leave up to a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate that. If you like more free resources where you can get my best strategies to help you increase your company's performance and scale profitably, you can get handpicked articles to propel your growth, and you can get trainings and discussions that I give freely online, as well as low-cost resources such as my books and guides. You can get all of that by going to dogoodwork.io/resources. 90% of all of these resources are not behind any email opt-ins. You can get instant access by going to dogoodwork.io/resources. Now, if you'd like to accelerate your progress and shorten the gap between information and action and start seeing results in your business, let's work together to increase your company's performance and scale profitably and serve more clients without the overwhelm. You can request a free clarity call to see how we can best support you to reach your goals by going to dogoodwork.io/apply. Again, that's dogoodwork.io/apply. As always, it's an honor to be a small part in your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.